All right, so welcome. We're going to get started then?
Yep, we are recording now.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to Breathe and Bead. This version, we will be learning how to make a keychain. I am doing this. My name is Janice Rabideaux. I'm with Family Services. I'm doing this as an outreach activity through Family Services. And I'm just really excited to be able to come together with you all with the new ideas and new techniques and to teach you new ways of making really cool beaded things. So we've got about an hour together and everyone got a kit. We put kits together. The process that we've been doing lately is to provide the community members with actual supplies they need in order to make a project. We're finding that approaching class this way and having the hands-on activities with supplies for the participant works out really well. A lot of good learning happens, a lot of this good discussion happens. We get a chance to share what we're all doing on our own with other supplies or other activities. So it's been working out really good and I'm enjoying this. I don't know how long I'll have out of ideas, but if you have any ideas or things you would be more interested in learning about, let the library know and we'll see what we can do about coming up with some more projects for you. I'm not quite sure what we have planned next, but the Keychain was for this month. It'll be 2 sessions. Today I will be showing you how to put the keychain together. You got all the supplies for that. And then I'll show you how to start the beading and maybe possibly even demonstrate. Well, I will demonstrate how to do the peyote stitch because we'll be doing the peyote stitch around these keychains. And then, so between today and the next time we meet, we'll give you that chance to do your peyote stitch and get the whole thing done. And then when we meet again, I could show you possibly how to finish it off. We could add some fringe on the bottom, not fringe, but edging on the bottom of the beading. Or, if you have any questions and get stuck, that's the time when we can, take some time to review some of the steps or some of the processes. I could possibly even show you a different, maybe, we're going to have an hour together next time too. So I'm trying to figure out what else we can do because hopefully you guys will all be done with your beading part of it and we can share with everyone what we did. But I'll be prepared to maybe show you some other peyote stitch projects or something. We'll figure it out. So anyway, welcome. I see Chantel made it with us. Hi, good to see you.
Hi.
And then Dolly's here as well. And then Lindsay. Good. I'm glad you guys all joined us. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to speak up while I'm talking. You will see 2 different camera views for me. I'm looking at my iPad now, and down here below here is where my hands will be working. This is where my laptop and my camera is set up. So my iPad, you will see me looking down a lot. That's because I'm looking at the work that's in front of me. Every once in a while, I'll try to remember to look up, but put my little old lady glasses on so I can see. And make sure that the lighting is good. Let me know if it's too dark or too light for you guys. I have a really nice bar light here that I can shine on so I can see better. But here's the sample that I'm working on. And I'm gonna put that aside for now because this kind of shows you what the finished piece looks like. I'm almost done with the beading, but not quite. But this is the size. You guys have all the supplies for that. So I'm gonna put that aside and we're gonna start out from the beginning of all the supplies that you have in your bag. You have a dowel piece. The dowel is a 1/4 inch diameter, a 1/4 inch across from side to side, and I cut it 1.5 inches long. You can get these in the store. They come really, really long, like that. I don't know, this one must be about 36 inches long, and you can cut them up into pieces. I just used an X-Acto knife. If you have a little saw, please use that because my fingers got so sore from taking my X-Acto knife and sawing through it. I literally was sawing through it to get to maybe halfway, and then I could actually break it apart. So that's why some of them ended up having this raw edging on there, but that's okay. That's all going to be covered up. But yeah, if you get a real long piece of dowel and you need to cut it down, get a saw. My fingers were so sore. And then you have a flat leather piece. We are using, what is this called? Chamois cloth. It's like split leather, but it's a little bit thicker than split leather and thinner than regular leather piece. So it's a nice pliable piece of leather. We decided to go with the thinner instead of a regular leather because that's what we had on hand. So you can use whatever you want. And then you also have a skinny piece of lace. This is 1/8 inch long by 4 inches long. This provides the loop for doing your chain or putting your keychain ring on. And here's your keychain ring. So you also have beads. Everyone has 3 colors of beads. We gave you more than enough because I wasn't exactly sure what size or what style, what patterns you wanted to use. You might use more of one color than the other, so you're going to need more of one or the other colors. And we wanted to make sure you had enough for whatever design you're making. These are these size 11 or 12s, Maria?
They're size 11.
Size 11 seed beads, size 11 needles. You can use 12s if you want, and you can use 13s if you want. And that's it. Oh, and thread, you got a size B thread, I'm assuming, or was it D this time?
I'm not sure. Laura did the thread.
Okay, well, I usually use B, and that means that my big spindle here that I buy, it has a letter B on it, meaning it's thinner than D. And it's that nylon thread, it's nice and strong and doesn't fray. So you have a bunch of that. I think that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this leather is easy enough to glue on. You will notice I have a pencil line up towards the top edge or towards the upper half, all the way across. This is 1.5 inches long. So if you'll notice, your dowel fits in that area. That's what we're going to glue. So eventually it's going to be wrapped around the dowel. Okay, so that's what the pencil line going across is for. The pencil dot going up on the top area or on the top of on the line and also on the bottom is just the center, and that will give you a guide for cutting your fringe. So that's what those 2 points are for. All right, so what we want to do is, the first thing I did was glue my lace onto my dowel. And I like to put a piece of paper or a napkin underneath because I don't like to get glue on my little mat. And using tacky glue, oof, that wasn't supposed to happen. My whole cap came off. I have to just pull it top off. There we go. What you want to do is you want to put a little skinny line on either side of the dowel. So just gently put a skinny line. Always have your glue ready for demonstrations. Let me get a hole in here. Hold on 1 minute. Okay.
Well, we weren't able to give everybody a squeeze bottle, but Laura made little glue baggies, so everyone else is going to have to use a stick and
Oh.
the glue.
Good. That's good to know. I don't know. I didn't know exactly what you guys all had in front of you. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't think about that. I made a mess with mine, but yeah, it's a baggie with glue and a wonderful stick. Otherwise, it's hard to get out of the bag.
okay. All right. So you're going to put a little thin line on your dowel on one side, up and down. It doesn't have to be that much. Just enough to secure it. And then on the other side, whoa, the same thing. Just where you're going to be placing the lace. And so you just gently put it on either side of the stick. And it doesn't matter if you don't make the bottom even, the bottom two laces even, just kind of loop it around. And it's nice to have less glue because it doesn't slide around on you so much. You need just enough glue to keep that leather in place. Like I don't have enough glue up here, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. Okay, and it doesn't matter how big your loop is. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. There's really no science to it, just whatever you feel is right. You just need enough space to loop in your key ring. And so my bottom ended up just kind of being uneven. That's all right, just leave it. You're not going to see this part. If it bothers you so much, just trim it off. I only gave you 4 inches because it was so easy to cut this. I just made a 4 1/8 inch and I cut an 1/8 inch strip. So that's so there's no science to why I do things. It's just because it's easiest. So you just need a strip long enough to go around your dowel piece like that. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your leather piece and put the glue all along that 1.5 inch top part. Remember, you don't want to go along the wide or the longer part because that's not where your dowel is going. Get the shorter part towards the top because that's where your dowel is going to be wrapped. So you're going to generously put glue on. And when I mean generously, you don't have to skimp. You don't have to worry about it gushing out. Your leather is going to be covered up with your beads. Once you're done with your peyote stitch, you're not even going to see any goopy, yucky looking leather because it's going to be covered with your beads. But it will squirt out through the slit that's at the end. All right, so what I like to do is I like to start, so my leather piece is kind of in the middle of the dowel, in the middle between the leather strips and in the middle. So what I mean by that is this edge is going to start in the middle. So what I'll do is I'll flip my dowel over and just kind of eye it in. So when I wrap, my leather is going to be even with my dowel. And I'm going to firmly wrap it around until it touches the other side. This is how wide is this? 1 inch wide?
Yeah.
That will get you to where your ends of your leather is touching. It's nice and tight around the dowel. It's even up a little bit from the dowel. It doesn't have to be even. If it makes even across with the dowel, that's fine. I ended up coming up a little bit. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Everyone wants to try to be perfect about their gluing and their matching up and stuff. This is just a base to put your beading around it. So don't be worried if it's not perfect. And that's it. See how I didn't have any much of a fringe left. So now you're going to take your leather piece and you're going to trim up or cut up the fringes. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to go from that edge dot all the way up to that other dot on the line, and that's going to start my fringes. I think I'm going to go 2 cuts on either side. That'll give me a good looking fringe. When I cut, I always like to go from the left to the right, because then that lets me see how wide my strip is. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to just kind of eye it. I don't want to go way out here. I want to come way in here and just cut up. Doesn't have to be very straight. Don't worry about it. It's going to dangle around, and the more you use your keychain, the more it's going to curl up and twist around on you anyway. And it looks kind of cool when it gets a little old looking. So if you do a crooked cut, don't worry about it. See, like that's a little wavy right there. I don't care. Don't worry about it. And then same with this other side, you're going to just eye it in and do 2 cuts. This will give you about what, 1/8 inch, almost a 1/4 inch fringes, which is pretty nice looking fringe. You can go skinnier if you want. If you're daring and want to go really skinny, go right ahead. All right, there you go. Now you're ready to bead. That's it. This is a piece I did as a sample. This is a little bit wider. I used regular leather. There's the finished leather side and then the inside of the leather. It's turned out to be fatter. So I have more beads that I have to go around there. So I'm decided not to use that as an example. I made a new one that's using the chamois cloth that we used on this sample here. So this is what I'll be using to show you how to bead. This should be dry enough to start beading around too. So don't worry about letting it sit to dry. You can go right ahead and start beading on it. But I'm going to put that one aside because I've already got this one set up. And we're ready to bead. Shouldn't take you that long at all to do that gluing part of it, especially when your pieces are already measured out and cut. It's just a matter of gluing and wrapping and doing the fringe. These are 1-inch keychain rings too. You can get them in many different sizes. I don't have my samples here. So 1 inch meaning it's 1 inch from this side to that side. You get all the glue off my fingers because you guys will be looking at my fingers up close, and I'm sure it'll gross you out. All right. Now, here is my sample, how I started. This is where my starting piece is. This is my tail. And what I did was, see if I can get this focused for you. I went from the inside and poked out. So this piece, there's my knot. Can you see that? That's going to be inside of the leather. It's going to end up pulling itself in between the dowel and the leather. It's called, hiding your knot. And then this tail, I'll show you that later, is going to be sewn back into the leather and woven back through the beads to the other side of the work, because your work is going to slide up and down. See how that slides up and down? It's attached in the beginning here, and that's the only place it's going to stay put. So we have to make sure it doesn't slide up and down. In order to do that, you're going to want to work your tail all the way to the other side and then come back through the leather again, and that'll secure the whole thing. And I'll show you how to do that part later. I wanted to show you how it began. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to begin the beading. And I have to physically readjust my camera because it doesn't zoom automatically. And I'm going to go with a shorter thread only because, it's for demonstration purposes. I like to try to bead using one whole complete thread. So I'll use like 2 or 3 arms lengths of beads sometime, but I'm going to do a short one this time. So you can decide, you can do any length that you want. I'm going to take this bead off, or this needle off, because, oh wait, I got my other needles here. Never mind, I'm prepared. These are the needles that I use. This is a number 11 sharps. You can also get them this way too from Knot Bay, 5 of them or 25 of them. They're not that expensive either. I think this packet comes like $5.25, $5.50, something like that for a packet of 25. All right, to thread your needle, I'll just go through that again. I usually like to go put my thread right in between my fingers, so you can barely see it. It's kind of a weird angle, but that helps. It helps keep the needle in place, and then you just kind of find your hole in your needle. It helps the thread in place, and then you find your hole in your needle and push it right through.
Mine never works like that.
There's a lot of practice. And now when I do my knot, I want to keep about maybe 4 to 6 inches from the end, because I need this tail, right? I need that in order to work it back in to secure my work on the top. So go ahead and make your knot about 5 to 6 inches away from the end.
What you need, Ben?
The more you have on the end, the better. It might get in your way as you're working when you're beading, so
What?
don't worry about and get a little
Got what?
frustrated. Don't get frustrated with yourself.
You got it? Or you want me to bring it?
Hey,
Want me to bring it?
Chantel, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all right, thank you. Sometimes we forget that we're on. I've done that many times. I was munching on some potato chips during a meeting last night and realized my microphone was on. Someone had to tell me. Oh, was I embarrassed? All right, so I got about a 3 or 4 knot going here. All right, you can pick anywhere, choose anywhere to start. I usually like to start just to the side of the loop. And look, there's even a little space for me to go in. Just kind of work your needle inside and come to the outside. You want to have about maybe 1/8 of an inch. You want to come down far enough because you need enough space between the edge of the leather to the other side of that first row of beads. So that space is 1 bead width wide. I'm even a little bit further. So I'm going to unpoke it and bring it back through again. So I'm kind of like where I want to be. And now you're ready to begin. Like I said, this tail is going to be getting in your way once in a while. Don't let it frustrate you. Just keep moving it out of the way. Now, I usually like to wrap counterclockwise. So I'm going to go this way. I'm going to pick up 20 beads. I did this sample using 22 beads. And I noticed, boy, is that really loose. It was more loose than what I wanted it to be. If you can get a nice tight wrap around your piece that you're peyote stitching, it really lessens the frustration of your work moving and twisting and moving up and down and stuff. So 20 beads, and I'm doing even number of beads. And there's a difference. If you do an odd number of beads, you will not be finishing a row and starting a new row. You end up just going around in circle and circle and circle. You don't have a beginning and an end. So the way I like to do it for beginners is to do the even number of beads and finish 1 row and then move down and then go to the next row and finish that. There's a difference in patterns as well. You will get you will end up having, like if you want to have dots, you have 1 dot and then you keep doing dots like that all the way around. It comes out evenly, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense. It'll make sense to you once you get beading what I mean. And then also with triangles or rectangles or diamonds on your patterns, there's a reason why you would want to do an odd number of beads versus an even number. It's all the what matters is that you're ending up without an additional space, additional bead that you don't want. And like I said, once you get beading, you'll understand. I'm getting too confusing right now, so I'm just going to tell you even number of beads for beginners and do one row and then move down to the next. And I'll show you what I mean. 20 beads fits around this circumference really nicely. So I'm going to count 20 beads, take 20 beads and put them on my needle. 6, 10. And remember, when you pick up your beads, it's always nice to have little mats. And just push them, flip them sideways and slide them on your needle. They won't be bouncing all over the place. 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. All right, bring your beads down to your work and wrap them around till you get to the beginning. And you're going to look at it and you're going to say, ooh, that's a big space in between there. Yeah, it is. But the more you pull and yank on your work, leather is very forgiving and very soft. So it is going to condense and push in and your beads will end up coming together. Believe me. All right. So now I got it wrapped around and I'm going to go through that very first bead that I had put on. And that's going to complete your circle. That's your first row. The first 2 rows or so are going to be a little frustrating because it's not going to look like peyote stitch at first. You're going to look at it and thinking, what's going on? Am I doing this wrong? It's not falling into place. That will happen. But after you get past the 2nd row and start doing the 3rd, you're going to see that really cool brick stitch pattern, that peyote stitch. All right. So now I'm pulling, and look at how good that the beads are starting to pull together. I don't have very much gaps at all. And once we get working, the gaps are going to disappear. All right, so I'm ready to begin the next row.
And you just go through that first bead on the first row, right?
Just the first bead, yeah.
Okay.
Is that clear enough for you guys? My screen must really be bad because it looks blurry for me. Okay, ready for the next bead. I'm going to go with purple because the difference in the colors, contrasting the colors is going to show you the pattern better. You can use any colors you want. Okay, so I am going to skip this next bead and go through the bead after it. That's what you're going to do each time. Skip a bead, go through the next bead only. All right.
Janice, can you give us a minute to catch up?
Sure. Oh, you guys are working with me? Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
But and also I'd like everyone to welcome my Aunt Mary Askinet. She's joining us too today. She got a kit. Everybody knows Auntie Mary.
Tell Mary I'll call her later. Thanks.
Oh, she's with you? I was looking for her face on here.
No, if I'm using my phone and if I put the video on, it runs down my phone too fast.
Gotcha.
So,
All right, so I'm going to show you what that purple bead is going to do now. That purple bead is going to line up with that bead that's above it. See that? That's going to be the beginning of your pattern. You're going to notice that all your beads are going to line up like that. That's called the peyote stitch. Where are you at with that, Dolly? Do you want me to? All right, did you get
yeah,
the one?
we got a longer thread because I didn't realize that it'd be better to have a continuous thread all the way through. So
Yeah.
I had Auntie go back and change your thread out. So
Okay.
we're getting ready to start it and put the tail on and then do the first 20 beads. But we're not to the
Okay.
beads yet.
All right, if you do not have enough thread to go through the whole beading process, I'm going to show you on this one. This is ready to tie off and start another thread because I didn't make it long enough. I purposefully did that so I could show you guys how to switch off, how to knot and rethread and start using a new
Wait, I
thread.
gotta clean the hole out of this.
So we'll get to that.
I gotta switch out my beads. I got two different color reds in my packet. So I gotta take it apart now, and my
Oh,
reds are two
they're
different colors.
they're not contrasting enough, or?
No, they're two. One's a dark red and one's a different color red. A
I think
pinker
that's the
red.
way, Chantel, that's the way the package is. It's
That's
just
the way it's
different
supposed
shades
to
of
be?
red. Yep.
Okay, well, I'll leave them on there then. All right, I'll leave
Well,
them
if you
on.
want to use the two different shades of red, you can use, yeah, one row can be one color red
No, they're all stuck. I mean, I'd have to sort through them, and
mixed in the bag.
yeah, they're all mixed in one bag.
Okay,
So I'll just leave it and see how it comes out.
okay.
All right,
So,
thank you.
I'm gonna try and get through this, so, you know, I would love to wait till everyone is totally caught up, but I'm gonna move ahead a little bit here, all right? If you get lost and need help, this is always recorded, but right now we got like 20 minutes left, and I wanna make sure I get through enough for you guys, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So we got the first 20 beads on, and we went through that first bead to connect the whole circle. And then I skipped a bead. I put on my next color bead. I skipped a bead, and then I went through the next bead. And that's all you do. You pick up the next bead, you skip a bead, and you go through. Wait, okay, so this is where you get mixed up. Make sure that you're looking and figuring out where that next bead is. So that's supposed to be lined up top and bottom. This is the bead you skip, and then you go through the next bead. So this is the part that's going to move around on you and get you mixed up. So always keep track of where that next bead is that you're skipping. Always readjust your beads and say, oh, this looks like a mess. It doesn't even look like Peyote Stitch right now, does it? That means that this purple bead has to go underneath that green bead where it belongs. So pull it tight, and then they'll start moving together the way they need to. So if all else fails, get mixed up, just skip a bead, go into the next bead. Skip this bead, go into the next bead.
She goes fast. She's a beater.
And when we get around to the end, I'll show you what we do after that. That'll be finishing up the second row. So we're on the second row, we're skipping a bead, going through the next bead. And for beginners, it's always good to use one color on the first row and then use another color on the second row, because if you try to use both the same colors, it's really going to frustrate you and you're not going to remember or realize or see where you're supposed to go through the next bead, because it's going to be all jumbled up on you. Just look and see where I came out of. I'm going to skip this next bead and I'm going to go through the following bead.
Okay, that's fine.
Doing it. I'm excited.
It's recorded, so we can go back to the recording. That's why we gotta get us some. Can you take them off on the plate?
Ooh, what happened there? Did I go through the wrong one? Look at those are too close together. All you have to do is pull it down and see what happened. Skip. Oh, I put two beads on. So when you make a mistake, take your needle off, pull your bead through. If you try to go back through using your needle, you're going to mess yourself up. See, I got two beads the same color together. That's where my mistake was. I was wondering why they look so weird. How did that happen? That's weird. So after the second row,
All the way to the
when you're
top.
doing the third row, you're going to notice a space in there, kind of like a gap where a tooth is missing. you're always just filling it in with a bead. That's basically what peyote stitch is, filling in the tooth gap with a bead. So one bead
What
at,
color should be the next one, then the third row?
what's that? Oh, any color you want.
Okay.
You know, if you're a beginner and if you want to get this a hang of it, maybe try different color bead every row. That way you can, you know, you'll keep track of your stitching.
To make a pattern, you use the same color though, to fill in the, like if I use red, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Like if you want to make a diamond, you would use, well, I'll show you. If you want to make a straight row, like if these purple ones, if I want a straight row, I got to fill these in with purple too.
Okay, tell me when
And
you
that
have.
will be a one full row. And you'll see what I mean. Maybe I'll do that. I'll make one full purple row. And the fringes will get in the way. Don't get frustrated.
I didn't cut my fringes because that's why so
Oh,
they wouldn't wrap inside all my
sometime, yeah.
fringes.
Good thinking. Some people prefer just to cut their fringes way at the end. Some people will even like tie it together or tape it together. Okay, I'm at the end of that purple row. Now, you notice that everything is up, down, up, down. It's kind of fallen into place, but not quite. I'm going to manipulate it a little bit more by pulling tight, and that's going to make all those little beads go in place where they need to go. Like this purple needs to be just below that green. So I'm going to push it over a little bit and you're going to see that pattern beginning. I think I made a mistake here. Let me see. It always looks like a mistake until things get pushed together and then you think, oh, no, that's right. It's good. So I got up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
What you got?
Oh, we're
Two,
good.
one, three. Uh-oh, what do I do now? Take off.
Okay, so now I'm at the end. I'm at the end of the second row. I need to get over to the next row. So
Go ahead, Janice.
what you do is, see, it's moving on me again. I gotta look. Look for that space that I need and my beads aren't falling into place. So let me maneuver a little bit more. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to do 20 beads. Maybe I should have stuck with 22 because I'm not getting the spot where I need to be. Just bear with me a minute here.
Okay, let's go. Is it 23, right?
I think I did it wrong. I think I have 21 beads instead of 20. Yeah. Up, down, up, down. One bead down. Oh, okay, here it is. This should be up above the purple one. And
So Janice, is it 20 beads around?
that's what it is. What I started out with was 20.
Okay, so stick to the 20 or add more. We're just that.
20 or 22, yeah. 22 fits really well. Yeah, I did something wrong here. I didn't skip a bead. This is going from green bead to purple bead to green bead all in one row. This should have been skipped. So
Very good.
Mine did 20.
Yeah, I did 20, but I ended up not skipping a bead.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to take it out. Bear with me. So what would happen then is that when you finish up your second row, all you do is, instead of putting another bead on, you just feed your needle into
The next one.
the
right?
next one, right? And that'll
Yeah.
bring you, it'll drop you down to the next row.
Okay.
Take your needle, take everything.
And then that's it. Then you just keep putting the next bead on and filling in that tooth gap is what I call it.
And go back into the first bead that you
And then
did.
it's the same thing over and over and over till you get to the bottom.
It's working.
Yeah, let me see.
So it's
There it is. Yay.
my first tooth.
Yeah, your first tooth. First lost tooth.
So you're going to end up with 20 of your first color. And when you do every other, you're going to end up with 10 of the second color. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And skipping that first one in your second row sets you up somehow for the third row.
Yeah, not skipping from the second to the third, just putting your needle into that next bead you see, and that'll bring you down to the third row.
Okay, well,
You're
then,
gonna
thank
end
you
in
so
that
much.
first row again. You end in that first row, so then you have to drop your bead into the second row. So you're at
Right.
the third. Ah. It is definitely like to do it makes it a lot more understandable. I've been
Yeah.
reading peyote and you know, you've talked about it before, Janice, but this makes it much more understandable for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I thought maybe I'd draw you guys some diagrams too to explain, but like I said, I didn't get around to that part. It's kind of easier to see it when someone draws it out, for me anyway, but
Mhm.
Janice, I have a question.
yeah.
Do we keep going, when we go on the second row, then do we keep in the direction that we put the beads around the dowel for the
Yeah.
first row? Okay,
Yes, you just keep going in the
Okay.
same direction.
okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 20 beads. You know what? I might have smaller beads than you guys too. All right, so I ended up skipping, so I don't know where that happened. I'm gonna keep going here. And then I should have enough time to show you guys how to knot off, tie off, and start a new thread. We've got how much time left?
About 10 minutes.
Okay. I'm glad you guys are following along. This is great. The questions come when that happens, and it helps everyone stay on track and understand. This is much, much different than the beginning when we first started doing this. Oh my gosh, I remember how nervous I was trying to do needle or bead work underneath the camera, and then explaining, and I just felt like such a newbie, and now it's kind of comfortable, and I like it that everyone has their own little kits.
Definitely helps. You know, like I said, like doing this is helping me understand it. And I would not have any of this material at home. So this was
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And I'm noticing the keychain's getting in the way, so I'm going to take that off. Okay. I got it now. All right, so I'm on my last bead on my row, second row. I'm going through, I'm skipping and going through that final bead. Now I'm ready to come down through that purple bead. That was the first one of that second row. And that's going to place me into the opportunity for me to start filling in those gaps. And I notice how that green bead flipped up on me. There you go. Now I see where I can put that next purple one in between the other two purple. I'm in the third row. And that's all you do. You just go right over and fill in the gap. No skipping beads. You just, well, I suppose you are skipping beads, but all you're doing is filling in the gap. See, it forms a little V. You're just going from one bead to the next, to the next. You're filling in those tooth gaps. So the first row is the only different row. That's the one with the all 20 beads. The next rows are all 10 of a certain color, depending on your pattern. And it's filling in the tooth gap. And this will give you a zigzag up, down V pattern. Now, look at how far apart that is there. It looks like I'm missing some beads, but I'm not. I just got to pull and tighten my rows so those purple ones fall into place and form those gaps where I need those gaps to be. So don't be afraid to tug your work, get it nice and tight. More you pull, the better those beads are going to end up popping into place where they need to be. See, there's my gap, my next gap I just made. I think I had it correct last time. I took it apart thinking I didn't skip, but I think it was just because I didn't pull and adjust enough to get that gap where it needs to be.
Oh. I'm gonna say, as a beginner beader, I think the #1 tip I've taken away is to hold tight your beadwork.
Yeah.
That has helped so much. Don't be afraid to pull.
You notice I'm attached up here where I began. This keeps sagging down. That's all right. Don't worry about it. Your work is going to, like I said, that leather is going to get like mushy and it's going to press in, and you're gonna end up having a baggier bead wrap, but that's all right. You'll be sewing it in when you hide your tail and securing that top end where it won't move anymore. And beginner beaders always try to use the thinner leather. It's gonna be less frustrating for you if you need to go through leather for something. Okay, my last gap. And I'm ready for my next row. So I'm going to drop down into that next bead. I'm not skipping any, I'm just dropping down into it. And that will set me up to start the 4th row. And that is going to be filling in that tooth gap between that bead you just went through and the next one. So that's it. That's what your rows are going to look like each time. This is Peyote Stitch even number beads. All right, so I'm going to quick show you how I tie off my needle thread so I can start a new one because I ran out. I finished up my one row. Oops, there goes my needle. And that's how short it is. I don't like to stop this short. If you try to give yourself some length before you have to knot up, because otherwise it's always going to keep coming off your needle. So here's what I do. I end up just trying to pick up the thread in between that last bead I went through and the one above it, like so. Pick it up and pull your needle through. Before you pull it all the way through, there's a loop there. Go through that loop, and that's going to form a knot. You can do that once or twice. I usually try to do it once, maybe, because I don't like to have too fat of a knot, because then my needle can't get through. All right. So this is one way you can do it. All right. And then you're going to take this and then you're going to feed it through your work and then cut it off somewhere and you'll be done. But now you have to start a new thread. So here's another way that I like to do it. I like to leave that piece of thread so I remember where I let off, and then start my new thread. Enough so you can finish the beading. And everyone does this differently. This is how I like to do it. I did not make a knot on this end. There's no knot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to backtrack maybe 2 beads, and I'm going to go pick up that thread, wherever I can find that between the 2 beads, come through it behind it, pull it through until I get to maybe 5 or 6 inches. There's 5 or 6 inches left on my thread, and I'm going to knot there. So I'm going to take it and tie it once, tie it twice. And the reason why I go back a few is so I can bring my needle up to where I ended up. I only do it maybe twice because you're going to end up feeding this through your beads and hiding the tail. And you can knot as you go along that way as well. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here's the old tail ready to get hidden. Just keep that put aside and then work your way back through the beads till you get to where you ended up. You're going to have 2 tails this way. All right. I'm going to take my needle off because I'm ready for that next row, but I want to hide this tail just to get it out of the way. This takes a little while to do, but you know, it has to be done. You might as well just take your time to do it instead of let these tails dangle around and be in your way and frustrate you. So go ahead and hide it right away. So when I mean hide it, you're just going to go through up. So if I went through this white one, I'm going to go through the next green one. Oops, I'm not in the right spot here. And just kind of follow through some of the beads and pull it through. Ooh. And then if you like, this is where I said you can go ahead and knot again. So you can just gently but firmly find that thread piece, pick it up and go underneath or between it, underneath it with your needle. It's kind of hard because the beads get really tight together, but just take your time till you can find that thread. There it is. Pull it through until you have a little loop. My tail's too long. Let me pull this through. Hold on 1 minute. You have that little loop and you go through it and then pull, and that's going to give you your knot. Just once is good. And you can do that every once in a while when you, after you get done feeding it through a couple of beads, or you can just do it twice on the bottom and then just kind of feed it through wherever you want. But make sure you don't skip beads. You got to follow the bead that's right next to it. Otherwise you're going to have a piece of thread hanging around that you're going to see. So I went through about maybe 4 or 5 different times. And I'm just going to pull as tight as I can and tie it off or cut it off. Pulling it helps that thread bounce back into the beadwork so you don't see it at all. You need to pull it because if you just try to cut it right at the surface of the beads, you're always going to have a little snipply showing. So pull that thread when you cut it. There you go. Then you can leave this one where you've started your new thread, or you can go ahead and feed it through and knot it the way I just showed you. Like I said, if you are frustrated about it, always hanging out, go ahead and get rid of it right away and do the hiding. And that's it. Anyone have any questions on that part? I hope it was easy to see. That's how I add thread. There's so many different ways. Some people will just take their new thread and tie it onto whatever is on there and then just keep continuing. But you'll always have that tail, right? You always have two tails because you're tying one thread with the next. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoys the beading process with this. We are done with our time. And if you have any questions or are confused, yeah, you can go right ahead and watch the video again. But I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's finished piece. Oh, that looks great, Chantal. Nice, nice colors. Very nice, awesome. Everyone is getting it. That's great.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
So see ya. All right, Dolly, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to message the library or go find the video, okay? All right.
Okay, you're working with two elders here, you know, it takes us.
Yeah, I know. I wish we had more time together, actually. That hour long takes
This
fast.
is the third time we had to redo the
Oh.
name.
Where are you
On
at,
Aunt
Dolly?
Mary's, on Aunt Mary's, huh?
You're at Mary's house?
Yeah, I'm taking care of Aunt Mary now.
Oh, okay.
And
All right, well, just
Alright.
be patient with yourself, okay? And always remember, if it gets too frustrating, put it away for a while. All right, you don't want to put those frustrating feelings into your work, okay? All right, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.